At the end of the day, it's not about what you have or even what you've accomplished. It's about what you've done with those accomplishments. It's about who you've lifted up, who you've made better. It's about what you've given back. Denzel Washington. Welcome to Inspire Vision. Our sole purpose is to elevate the lives of others and to inspire you to do the same.
Sara, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm really pleased. This is going to be an interesting discussion. I've not had many of these types of discussions, and so I'm looking forward to it. And obviously, there's going to be an interesting audience for this discussion also, because we're going into a different area than normal. I'd like for you to share your story with the audience. You know, it's always interesting to understand the journey that brings an individual to this point in their lives.
I'm on a mission to heal the world from the inside out. I want to teach 28 million humans to heal trauma using the magic of meditation before I die. And so my plan is to teach coaches so that I can have a wider reach. And the journey for me is just curiosity. I am so interested in the world and the brain and the way that we can be better humans. And the first time I heard of enlightenment, I did not know what it was, but I knew I wanted it. And I was probably in my early 20s at that point. And so I am actively seeking enlightenment with meditation and with my Dharma. I have a strong conviction that this is my contribution to the unfolding of the collective human consciousness, and that these traumas are not us, and that we can choose our vibration by allowing the emotions to pass through, by taking a conscious look at our subconscious programming, which isn't serving us, and by healing from the inside out using meditative states. Because when we were very young and when our subconscious was forming, we were in a meditative state. We were in a trance, and we can harness our breath and our body and awareness of what's going on in the mind in order to start to change it. And so my story is wrapped up in all of that. It's wrapped up in my mission. There's so much to tell you, but there's a start.
And do you have a specific community that you like to deal with?
I do. I serve my queer community, which that act in and of itself, stepping into that fully instead of just being a meditation coach as I was previously, was and is a daily act of solidarity for my true authenticity. I am still shunned by my birth parents for what they see as a choice to be gay, and they wish I would just pray the gay away and talk to me about, and that they change the subject whenever I mention anything about being gay. And now it's my business, and has been for, well over a year at this point. So as we record this, and I know that this will not release for several months. So I know with great conviction that stepping into my true authenticity as a gay woman later in life, and then serving my community, is really where I'm supposed to be, because I believe that queer hearts break harder. And I have a Facebook group for queer women who are dealing with heartbreak. Heartbreak is a symptom, and it is rooted in past childhood trauma. And so,
and I mean, your journey, how did you finally decide to come out and be honest with yourself as well as other people around you? Well, what was that journey? Because as you say, later in life for you.
It's rooted in meditation, to be perfectly transparent. I had been meditating on and off, had never really found anything consistent. Was a yogi and did some like Deepak Chopra courses, but never really found anything that stuck for me. And then I hired a meditation coach and really took it seriously, and went to several different sessions to actually learn. And that is what really started me on my journey of, I got pregnant with my now child, and I wasn't able to drink, obviously. Well, I chose not to drink while I was pregnant.
Right.
And I was really meditating and sitting with myself and didn't have alcohol. And I really started to look at some of the things that I hadn't looked at previously, like a multi-man rape that I sustained when I was 28 years old and didn't deal with it at all. Just kind of shoved it under the rug and moved on. And when you sit with yourself, it's not like a horror movie coming into your mind. It's just this gentle, like, hey, you haven't looked at this. It's time to look at this. And so meditation really saved my life. I think it made me understand that I was using alcohol to suppress who I really am. I recognized that I was not able to be intimate with my now ex-husband without that, and that I was really suppressing that. So meditation is that recognition, that awareness of true self. I think I see it as a folding within so that we can unfold into our greatest authenticity. But it takes the time.
And I would imagine that that was a difficult decision to come out. And as you're, as we're talking to people who some of them may be experiencing the same issue now, how did you finally find the courage to come out, and what was the process? And obviously, as you say, you ended up alienating your parents. What was your experience with that? So that the other folks can kind of understand how to gain the strength as well as what they can expect.
Yeah, in my early 20s and beyond, I dated primarily women, and I just did not come out of the closet. I didn't share that with some of my close friends knew, but I didn't come out formally. And so when I was 38, 39 years old and dealing with all of these big life changes like divorce and stopping drinking alcohol and really stepping into my authenticity, I came out first to my family. They summarily rejected me. Not my siblings. They are more progressive and understanding and accepting, but was estranged from my parents for a significant portion of time. We do have a relationship. I think it's important that my daughter has a relationship with her grandparents while they're alive and well. And so, I've done a lot of work and healing personally around just recognizing that them not accepting me really has nothing to do with me and everything to do with themselves. We know that somebody who's hell-bent on criticizing other people, can you imagine what it's like inside their head? It's got to be an ugly place. They've got to be really tough on themselves.
Well, that's true. And, here's a question that comes to my mind. And I've always wondered about this a little bit. Now, you have a daughter, right? That's your child. Okay. So do you anticipate that ultimately that she also will have a different lifestyle and be gay? Or do you feel like she may go the other way and be heterosexual? What are your thoughts about that? And the reason I ask that is because I think there's a lot of people that object to gay couples having children. And I happen to have a good friend a ways away that adopted a daughter from Africa. And I thought that was incredible that he was willing to do that. But with that said, what's your thoughts as a mother who happens to be gay? What's going to happen with your daughter?
I am teaching her to be a good human being. And when I talk about whoever she's with one day, I say your boyfriend or your girlfriend. And so it's just very open. I have no attachment to who she is. I think a lot of parents see their children as an opportunity to do it differently. At least I felt like that my parents were trying to live out something through me by forcing me to do certain things. And I have been and continue to be very intentional to not push my needs for acceptance onto my daughter. Like if she's interested in ballet or cheer or theater, I don't care. I am not going to try to push her. Like my parents made me play piano for 17 years. wouldn't let me quit because my dad wanted me, so I think it's just whatever she wants to do. And that applies to everything. I want to be a sounding board for her. I want her to be able to ask me any question and know that I'm not going to lie to her. And so one of those things is that I expect her to be able to be authentic with me.
And I think that's what a real good parent does. And regardless, I think that's what a real good parent does. And so your focus is helping women who really have experienced some heartbreak. How does that come about, and why did that become your focus?
Well, when I was a meditation coach and an inspirational speaker, I experienced the deepest heartbreak of my entire life when my ex-wife asked for a divorce. And I recognized that even though it was the deepest heartbreak I'd ever experienced, I had the tools to really move through it at a different pace and to be able to cut the energetic cords and do the deep soul work, talking to my higher self, her higher self, healing the generational trauma wounds. And so I looked for a queer coach to help me learn about, and I couldn't find anybody. So I cobbled together some things with attachment coaches galore, got my own certifications in attachment. And as a meditation coach, a yoga teacher, I'm certified in NLP, neuro linguistic programming. I have a master's degree in English. I have put together my own system that not only teaches women how to heal their heartbreak, but how to go back and rewrite subconscious core beliefs, core wounds from childhood that are not serving us anymore, and to be able to experience life differently because of doing this profound meditation work.
Well, and one of the comments that's been made is you said that a lesbian heartbreak is different than a heterosexual heartbreak in divorce or whatever that happens to be. Why do you think that is? Because, obviously, is it that women are different than men, or women from a heterosexual are going to have the same type of heartbreak that women from a, common area? What is that?
Biologically, women are more prone to, I should just say, people with more estrogen are more prone to nesting and making a home and taking care of young. Whereas when you get two males together, they're more into spreading seed. And so there's a joke in the gay community. What do gay men bring on a second date? There is no second date. What do lesbians bring? A U-Haul. And so this speaks to this idea of just nesting and taking care. It's so we call it the U-Haul phenomenon. And then additionally, so women get together quicker. One of them's lease is up, they move in with the other person. Now the other person has no furniture, they've just sold all their things and moved in with their love so quickly. And then women make less on the dollar than men. And so they go to break up. And then one woman is essentially homeless, couch surfing, and doesn't have any, it hits harder because we get together quicker. And we are twice as likely to get married than gay men and twice as likely to get divorced. Really? And yes, so it's economical, it's everything all wrapped up into one. It's biological, it's psychological. We women just think that this is it. This is my love. And when there's attachment wrapped up in it with anxious attachment, avoidant attachment, people love to call somebody a narcissist these days. Oh, they're a narcissist. Anyway, the idea here is that we take responsibility for ourselves. We look within instead of the downward spiral. We learn to spin within so that we can create our own life from the inside out, design our own life from the inside out by doing the deep trauma work.
Wow. Yeah, and that's fascinating. One of the questions that comes to my mind then, and this is obviously something you're talking about because you say that there's a higher divorce because you tend to move so quickly. Isn't that true in general? that one of the challenges that we have, here in the United States as well as but here in the United States, we're seeing the divorce rate continually rise.
Mm,
And how many times is it because you made a decision too fast?
yeah.
And when you're talking about how women, tend to want to move in right away and so forth, what happens? What has occurred that they get in there because they feel like there's deep love there, and then all of a sudden, what comes up that causes the divorce?
So when we have subconscious attachment states that are programmed from childhood, one person might be more anxious leaning, one person might be more avoidant, one person might be a combination of those two things, both anxious and avoidant. So we have these subconscious states that are basically filtering all of our reality. Our reticular activating system, our RAS, I'm sure you've heard about that. It's always filtering for our needs as well as for our core wounds, our core beliefs. So this is how you might be walking down the street with your daughter, and you see a couple pass and they have a dog, and you are looking at the dude's shoes because you are really into materialism or something like that. And your daughter is really looking at how in love they are because she has a need for love and connection. And so we see same objective situation, but we see different things based off of our filters for reality. And so we get to look at what are the things, those like I call it the itty bitty shitty committee right here between your ears.
Yeah.
Like this little guy, the IBSC, is constantly like looking for problems, trying to keep us safe, trying to stay in that homeostatic safe zone where we feel like, okay, this is familiar, even if the familiar is not exactly comfortable, even if like that person that you're dating is really similar to one of your parents or your primary caregivers or a coach from middle school or something who was really abusive. It just depends, but we will stay in a situation that's familiar, even though it's uncomfortable, just because our subconscious will think, okay, this is what we know. And so that's how we'll end up dating or marrying. I always say I married my dad. One was a guy, one was a girl, and neither one of them was actually my dad. I married my dad twice, though, like just the same kind of personality. And so when we can look at our attachment, when we can look at our core wounds and figure out our needs, then we have a magical formula for being able to understand ourselves as well as to communicate to others what our needs are, as well as what some of the things that have hurt us in the past are. It sets us up for relationships success. And that's what we need in the lesbian community.
And obviously, I think of everything you're saying has so much, value to anyone. As a coach, when I was doing particularly some business consulting, one of the first things I would help my people to understand is any principle we're talking about here in business is going to totally apply to your life and vice versa. And as you're talking about this, one of the things that I used to do as a dentist is I really was into the diagnosis. What's really causing the problem? Because I worked with some other things other than just drilling teeth. But do you ever get clients that are just almost ready to get into a relationship? And do you actually give some advice to any individual about how to approach a relationship in a way that ultimately, if they do choose to get together, get married or whatever, that relationship is going to have a much better chance of lasting? What are some of the elements that have to be considered ahead of time?
Language is a shared contract. So it's so important to really check for understanding. You can have a really straightforward set of sentences. Person A says, I am going to go to work and earn the money. Person B says, I will stay home and be with the kids. The idea is that each of those people with their separate data that they've collected over their entire lifetime is going to be very different as far as what that actually looks like. So it's really important to flesh out the communication there. What is it? What do you really mean? and what's our day-to-day going to look like, so that we can actually begin to communicate in the same way. And then when, again, we know our core wounds, when we know our needs, this is a magical formula to head off conflict. It's great for conflict resolution to be able to know our partner and be like, listen, I don't want you to think that I'm breaking up with you. I am here and I'm communicating this because I care about the relationship. I noticed the other day that you said blah, 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 and it made me feel XYZ because I have a core wound about this from when I was a kid. Do you think, would it be possible for you to help me by texting me in advance? I don't know, I'm making something up, some sort of like very concrete strategy that your partner can execute very clearly, instead of like saying something like, you never text me when you get home, like that's very accusatory and it's not helpful. But if we can say, this is how I'm feeling, this is a need I have, here's a certain strategy, can you help me? That is the beginning of conflict resolution right there. But it requires quite a bit of work to be able to get to that point, to be able to say a phrase like that. It requires, so like, one person can ruin a relationship. It takes two to make it work.
Well, and that's while you're in the relationship. What do you do before a relationship? Because obviously, in some cases, you end up with someone that over a year or two you discover really has some of those issues, that's not willing to deal with it, and it just isn't the right fit. And so there's got to be some ways, whether they're gay or not. How do you approach a relationship in such a way that before you ever make the commitment, you really have at least a reasonable idea that it's going to work out?
The answer is you spend at least 90 days really digging into somatic awareness. So this is what I work with my clients on. So basically, we are figuring out these things that are bothering us out here that seem to be present day things. We do the folding within process, which is a proprietary 9-step technique. We do the folding within process. They have the power technique in order to use in daily life. Those are, some of the tools that we use, and we unpack and sift through these core beliefs, and then they know their needs. When you have this combination and you're able to like deprogram and reprogram, if you have something driving in the background, let's just say you constantly have a fight with your wife about like some clothes on the floor. It's never about the clothes on the floor. It's about like, you don't care about me. It's something much deeper. And so what I do with my clients is teach them how to be aware of where this feeling of not being good enough or being rejected or not being loved or being alone exists in the body, and building more somatic awareness. That way, next time they're on a date, they have a lot more somatic awareness, and they're being very present when they're meeting this new person, and they're noticing their energy in their body when they go home. They're feeling what it feels like when they're texting them. This is building the circuitry in the body so that we can recognize, oh, that is similar to my dad. I noticed that, because so often people want the butterflies in the stomach, but that is a bad sign. That is a sign of it's sympathetic nervous system arousal. And there's happy thoughts at first. So like, as far as the pendulum swings one way, it's going to go the other way. So we want to just really be aware of what our body is feeling from a moment to moment basis. So we spend the time alone doing the work, and then we have the tools to go out and actually date.
Okay. And you mentioned 9 steps. Are you able to mention what they are? We don't have to get into each one of them. There may be some I want to talk about real quickly. But what are those 9 steps to help someone to do that deep dive within themselves so that they are more fully prepared to evaluate or in a relationship, how they can at least make sure that on their part, they're doing the work.
I can't go through all 9 steps because it would take way too long, but I can tell you that they are based on the 3 levels of resilience. So the 3 levels of resilience are body, breath, and mind. And so we actually go through that process within the 9 steps so that we're actually regenerating upon itself this ability to recognize, okay, I am feeling a certain way. I am going to fold within myself. That's why I say stop the downward spiral, learn to spin within. And this 9-step process takes you through body, breath, and then observing the mind and really looking very carefully. Is this actually true? Is this? So we're questioning stories, and then we do the reprogramming. And that's something that actually, so the 9-step process you can do within a few minutes, maybe 30 minutes, it depends on the day. But the reprogramming is something we do over 30 days, 90 days. You're really digging in to make sure that you are changing the way that you experience life by changing the way that you talk to yourself in your head.
Can you reprogram yourself, or do you usually need help?
Personally?
Yeah. Or as a coach, what do you observe? Because obviously you're into NLP, which is one of the things you've been talking about. So what is it for individuals that are listening? Is there a way that they can do it on their own, or does it really help to find someone that can help them go through that process?
I mean, I think that there's so many different kinds of meditation out there, and it's just a matter of finding. It depends on how do you really want to do deep trauma work. The trauma work that I do is like, oh, that happened. Now, how do I want to feel? We're not reliving it. We're not doing EMDR. We're not going back and actually experiencing the work, right? But we're just like looking back long enough to figure out this is the way that I want to feel, right? So this is life work. And we just keep on plugging away at it. It's not going to do itself, right? We have to just every single day return to it, just like a little drop in the bucket.
Well, and you talk about meditation, and as you know, and as I know, there are multiple ways to meditate. Have you found something that for you and for your clients works well? And what is that type of meditation?
The meditations that I participate in are definitely self-led. My clients have access to guided meditations with me. I'm also certified in breath work of all kinds. So I do, for my private clients, I do weave in some breath work, and we do light breath work. I have a proprietary rainbow breath that we utilize for like stressful moments or for deepening. But the personal practice that I have, I do a lot of more vigorous breath work as well as mantra meditation. So chanting, actually utilizing the voice in order to induce deeper states. I find that because I've been meditating for so long, I just crave more and more deeper types of meditation. I've gone on 3 different meditation retreats of various lengths and would love to go on another one.
Yeah, they get pricey, don't they?
Yeah, it's so fun. I've done Dispenza, TM, as well as a Vipassana.
Okay, yeah, I've done Dispenza, so I get where you're coming from. So here's the question I come, because I love what you're talking about, the chanting. I think that I love the chanting, but I love to listen to it. So I'll do a walking meditation, and I will get onto a particular frequency where it's backed by some chanting. Is there a difference between listening to the chanting and getting in that through the meditative state versus chanting yourself?
Huge.
Beg your pardon?
Huge difference. Huge.
Oh, okay, huge difference. All right.
Yeah, I mean,
you whispered it quietly, so I know this is important.
Yeah, a huge difference. I would encourage you to get the wiggles out, go do your walk, go sit down sweaty, and choose Om or something empowering in English that you like, and just I use the beads, but you can just decide that you're going to do it for 4 minutes or something like that, and sit up and allow your voice to vibrate. This is the only area of the body where we can willfully create at any moment. And when we utilize, especially a lot of those nasal sounds, it acts on the vagus nerve, which starts here, right? And it's a natural parasympathetic nervous system activation. When we use vibration, because everything is vibrating, right? Everything is vibrating. And so when we use vibration intentionally and are also adding in the mindset, we know what the mantra means in English, or if it's Vedic, which is a lot of the chants that I do are Vedic, from ancient Sanskrit, thousands and thousands of years ago, these bija mantras. But you can do it with anything. Like TM is just a thought, word, sound. It doesn't mean anything. There's just a way of allowing the brain to latch onto something, giving it a little something to hold on to, and that allows the other brain activity to go down just by having this light focus on something like a chant or a breath. So that's where I find the most success personally. I've never been into guided meditation, but my clients love when I do.
when you do it for them, right?
I get paid a lot to do it for them. Yes, they book in one-on-ones because they want me to. Beautiful meditation wise, and tell them to, I get into that. So yeah, it's definitely.
There is a graduation in meditation. Now you talk about chants. How do people find those? Because when I'm sitting here thinking, all right, what am I going to, well, I'm not going to chant a chant. I may or whatever, which I haven't done, which means I need to graduate to that. But how do people find that? Or is it more just you can hum and whatever it is?
Yeah, humming has been scientifically proven to relax the parasympathetic nervous system or to enact the parasympathetic nervous system. But yeah, is a really simple one. And silence. So you just breathe in through your nose, 4 equal parts. And silence. So there's that. I mean, that's what the ancients said that they heard was like the sound of the earth, the sound of the universe, the sound of God. That's what they said.
Silent.
It's aum. And silence. And that silence is the inhale into the nose, and then you do it again. It's a circular.
Where do people find that so that they can understand how to do it and practice it and remember?
There's lots on YouTube, but I've done trainings. I've done several trainings to learn chanting, and I started doing it in Kundalini yoga. They do a lot of chants in Kundalini. And so I got the breath work and the chanting separate, more along the traditional vinyasa yoga style. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. Yeah, you could definitely find some information just to learn what these bija sounds mean.
Yeah, and how do you spell bija? Because people are listening and completely not understanding. How do you spell that?
So I think obviously it's not written in English letters, but I think most of the time you see bija instead of beja. Bija would be bija sound. Bija mantra.
Okay, cool. So how do people find you?
I can be found everywhere at Sara Webb Says. SarawebBsays. Sara Webb Says.
And you're there to help the gay community, particularly the women, to really work through heartbreak. Is that a fair assessment?
We serve all of the rainbow alphabet, the LGBTQIA++ community, and particularly women. We've had trans human beings and trans men and trans women. And so we serve everyone will, of course, serve straight people too. I did a custom meditation today for a straight lady because she loved what I was talking about. But we'll see. She might be, we'll see.
It's hard, but yeah, you're right. So what would be a message that you really want to leave with the audience?
Meditation is magic. It is a tool that you can use anywhere, anytime. You can learn tools that you can actually use with your eyes open. It's a portal. The body is a beautiful entry point for understanding ourself with a capital S. And so I encourage all of you to find the kind of meditation that works for you. You don't have to get rid of the thoughts. You don't have to sit in lotus pose. You don't have to levitate. Nothing amazing has to happen. Just do it every single day, just for a few minutes a day, and connect with yourself. It'll be well worth it.
Thank you, Sara. Thanks so much for being on the show. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Doug.
And folks, thanks for listening. Hope you've enjoyed this and look forward to literally having you join us again soon.